Shut up and sit down.
Good day, real estate investors. My name is Scott Lurie, and today we are here at the Hard Truth Podcast with a special guest, David Dodge. David, thanks for joining me. I'm super excited to have you. Unfortunately, not in studio, but via our great technology, and we've got some great things to discuss. So thank you for being with us, and we are super happy to have you join us.
Hey, man, happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And I'll do what I can to provide as much value as possible to the audience today, Scott.
Yeah, this audience is loves great content, and we're super excited. We believe you're going to offer a lot of great information, and we're excited to have you. David is a Missouri-based real estate investor, experienced and focused on wholesaling, fix and flipping, the BRRRR Method, and property management. So David covers basically a very wide spectrum of real estate. But I'd like to get started, David, just to understand why real estate. Why did you even get started in real estate? Where was the sparkle?
Oh man, that's a great question. So why real estate? Because I want to be my own boss. In fact, I had to go meet I had to meet 3 people this morning. I had to meet a guy that cuts my grass, a lady that cleans my house, and another guy to fix my sprinklers, all at my lake house, which is an hour away. And I didn't know I was meeting any of them until this morning. So my wife sits me down there to meet them all. No problem. But that's the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur and being your own boss, is that you can make your own schedule. So, 18 years ago, when I started in this business, or when I started investing in real estate, I had the mindset knowing that I wanted in the future the ability to control my schedule. And today was a perfect example of being able to drop what I'm doing and go do anything I want. Now, today was kind of work related in a way, right? Because I was meeting people, but that's the reason. It's so you can have freedom. Most people, they want financial freedom, but let's be honest. Isn't your goal truly to just have time freedom? It's to be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it. It's hard to do that without the financial freedom piece, right? But that's why.
They go hand in hand. And, you probably missed one of the important things that all of our listeners just listened to, is that you were fixing your irrigation system and your grass cutting at your lake house. I'm assuming that's not where you live, but you drive an hour to go enjoy the weekends or to relax after a long week of work. And the luxury of real estate has provided you and afforded you the ability to have a second home and to have a lake home, which we're going to get into today. And I picked up on second home, and then you said cutting my grass, and you kind of lost me right there. So we'll touch on that for a minute. So 18 years ago, you got involved in real estate. What did you? Just give us the quick story, right? You were at a coffee shop, and some guy said, "Hey, let's go wholesale this house." Or
no, man, I was in a college classroom. And the class was a finance class, but the teacher, it was a personal financial planning class, right? So it wasn't really like a basic finance. He had a lot of freedom to do what he wanted. And it was just like a personal financial planning class. I was like a freshman in college. And he pulled out Rich Dad, Poor Dad the first day of class, and he gave everybody a copy. And then he asked which charity we should donate his paychecks to. And for the next, I don't know, what's a college semester, 12 or 14 weeks or something like that, whatever. For the next 12 weeks or so, whatever the semester is, we read the book and discussed it in detail. And then every other week or every third week when he would get paid, we would mail his check to a charity. And the reasoning behind that was he didn't work for the money. His real estate provided him with financial freedom. So he just enjoyed being a professor and working at schools and teaching people. So he had a huge impact on me. And that's how it all
clearly
started.
So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, everyone knows the book. I've read it a slurry of times. I would encourage everyone, whether you've never read it or read it, maybe this is a good moment just to read it one more time. It's got some common sense. It's got some interesting ideology. It's a great book. It's certainly what motivates a lot of young kids. In David's case, obviously in college, didn't understand why this professor's sitting there going through a book that he could read on his own and discussing it. But obviously a pivotal moment for you, David. So you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You say, hey, I'm interested. And what then is your next step? Because we have a lot of people that are like you, David, 18 years ago, right? Or like me 20 years ago, right? I'm sitting fumbling through life saying, what am I going to do? Am I going to go work for somebody? I want all my financial freedom. I want my time freedom. I want to do everything I want to do. But how the hell do you get there, right? And some people take jobs at crappy jobs out of college and are miserable. What was your first step? How did you get motivated and have the risk profile, which was created in you when you were born, obviously, to say to yourself, hey, I'm going to take this next step? And what was that next step? Because the critical piece to what we're doing is, how do I get started in real estate, man? You don't need a college degree to be in real estate. You don't need a degree of anything. You just need to have the hustle, which we talk about all the time, a little bit of capital, and then the competency. But give us your story, man. We want to hear how you got started.
Yeah, no, that's great. So after I read the book and had the class and met the professor, I decided that I wanted to buy rental property because that's what he did. The book teaches you about the principles and the 40,000 foot view of real estate, but it doesn't teach you how to go buy a property, right? So that's where these podcasts come in, and
Sure.
and books and resources and coaching programs and mentors and all these other things, right? But I knew that I wanted to buy rental property, so I did like most people would do, and I went and found a real estate agent and had that real estate agent help me find a house. Well, of course, before he wanted to show me anything, he wanted to see that I could buy it. So then I walked into a bank and said, hey, I'm in college. I work at a sandwich shop and, deliver food and this and that and landscaping and cutting grass and all the random things that I did while I was in college that a lot of people do. And, showed them that I had some income. And this is back in, what is it? See, 05, I guess it is, give or take. And,
Okay.
and at that point in time, the bank said, hey, we'll give you a loan to buy a house. Because I didn't own a house either. This was like a primary residence type of a purchase. And I was going to move into it. And I did. It's called house hacking. We'll get to that in a second. But they said, hey, we'll give you an 80% loan. And I didn't have the other 20%, but I said, great. All right, cool. Let's go find a house. Can I get that pre-approval letter? So my agent will actually want to answer my phone calls. And
Right.
got it, took it to him. And we're buddies and partners on projects even to this day. But we went and searched for some 4-bedroom houses in the area that I already lived where I was going to school. At this point, I was a
So
sophomore. So this is,
yeah,
a couple months after this class, right?
Yeah. So David,
And
you touch on one thing there that people always ask us, right? So I like to get into some of the big points that are really the little points that I think are very important. So you picked up the phone and called an agent, and you said, now that agent, you guys do deals together and are partners in together. My question is, how did you find that guy?
he was my
girl.
bartender.
He was your bartender.
He was my bartender. Yeah, I drank a lot in college. I'm sure a lot of people that go to college do. And
Yeah.
he was one of my favorite bartenders, and he was always working, and we had a lot of fun together, and we just became friends. So I knew he was my agent at the time, or I knew he was an agent at the time before I needed an agent. And then, of course, right when I needed an agent, you just scroll through your memory, like, who do I know that's an agent? And boom, he popped into my mind. So a lot of the listeners, they probably have an aunt or an uncle or a cousin
For
or
sure.
a friend who's already the agent. And if that person isn't telling you that they're an agent, they're doing themselves a disservice. Like I always tell my
Yeah.
students, Scott, don't keep your business a secret. How foolish is that?
Right. What kind of business does that, right? You promote,
Yeah.
advertise. So this guy, so carry on. So you met a bartender, you were out slamming some, I don't know what it was in 2005. It wasn't,
Jägermeisters, baby.
there you go, Jägermeister. So we're throwing on some Jägermeister, and then you called the guy. You said you wanted to buy a house. You went and got your pre-approval letter. You went and found a house, but you're missing one important piece of the house, right? You only got 80% of the house.
I only got 80%. So we went and found a
Okay.
house. It was $150,000. Actually, it was $162,500 to be exact.
Yep.
Call it 150 grand, right? And
Okay.
80% of that's 120, 20% of that's 30. So I needed 30,000, and I maybe had like 6 or,
Okay.
or less. Maybe even less, maybe even a couple grand. So I called the bank and I said, hey, I don't have the 30 grand, but I can get it. Does it matter how I get it or where I get it from? Obviously, wasn't trying to do anything shady. And they were like, no, that's fine. So I borrowed it from friends, family, and grandparents.
So walk us through that process, though. So tell me this. So you needed 30. You had to fill this void. You went to grandpa, you went to grandma, you went to a friend. What are you saying to them? Because think about the guy that's just sitting there, right? I'm on my stool. I'm listening to this thing. I'm at a bar. I'm listening to a podcast, drinking some Jägermeister, saying,
It'd be cool if you were in a bar listening to this right now.
Yeah, right. But that's to say, I'm in the bar. I want to know what's going on, and I'm short 30 grand. But I want to know, David, what did you say to your people, right? I got a $30,000
that's a great question, man. Don't overthink
deficiency.
it.
Yeah, don't overthink it. That's a great question. And I think a lot of people, they have fear of this. And I teach my students to overcome this right out the gate. But basically, you're buying a hard asset. It's not like somebody's just going to lend me 30 grand and trust that I don't go drink Jägermeister with it, right? Sure. In context to this conversation, right? I'm buying a house. I'm getting a loan on it. I'm going to move in it. I'm going to take care of it. And I'm going to rent the other rooms out. There is risk. There's always risk, right? Sure. But I'm asking people to invest in me. Not into this property. They're investing into me. I'm going to get the loan.
So David,
I've already located the house.
I'm sorry to interrupt you for a minute, but this is the biggest piece that I think like the aha moment is, right? You're creating credibility with whoever you're on the other end. They're not investing in the house, right?
No.
They're not investing in the idea that you're going to produce rental income. They're investing in David Dodge, right? You're the one saying, invest in me, give me your money. And that really is the moment, right? So when you have that conversation with grandpa or friend or brother, you're creating a confident moment where confidence is shared between you and said person, whoever that said person is, to be able to do what? Borrow money, the pivotal moment, right? Because what they want is a return, I'm assuming, and they want also their money back, right?
Yeah.
And if they're friends and if they're really good friends or family or relatives or grandparents, they want to see you succeed too.
For sure.
So if they have if they don't have the means, they don't have the means. Like I would never ask somebody to go take out a personal loan or like a credit card cash advance to invest in me. That doesn't necessarily make the most financial sense for that person, right? But if they have disposable income, and I think the very first deal, I maybe got like 15 grand from my grandparents. I had 5 or 6, and then I borrowed another 10 from some friends. So what I did over the next 12 to 18 months was work hard and get more hours at my current jobs and just pay all those people back. And I think I paid everybody back in like 15 months.
But David,
for the 30 grand?
Yeah, so let's talk about that though, because here's once and again the moment that people don't see, right? So you're coaching, you're talking, you're learning. People are doing the same thing on the other end of the screen. You didn't pay them back by way of the asset, right? You didn't pay them back by... You went out and earned more income from other jobs, right?
Yeah, I worked my butt off to get into the ability to own the asset. So the asset essentially broke even. But guess what? Guess what? I didn't have a cost of living, whereas I would have otherwise had a $700 or $800 or $900 a month cost of living by renting out the other rooms. It's called house hacking. You can do it with single family homes. You can do it with multifamilies up to, I believe, 8 units. Don't quote me on that. But you have to buy these, typically you're going to buy these properties as a primary residence. I would suggest you do if you're going to house hack, because you're going to do it the legal way, the right way. But you're also going to get a better interest rate if it's a first home or a primary residence versus an investment property or a second home, like we had mentioned earlier. And you're going to rent the other rooms out. And in some cases, you can cash flow. In some cases, you may break even. In some cases, you may have to pay a little bit, but it's better than paying the whole amount, which again could have been, $700, $800, $900 a month. So I was breaking even by having the other 3 friends move into a 4-bedroom house that I bought, and all of their rent added up to pay the mortgage. So I think my cost to live there was like $100 a month just to chip in on the cable and the utilities,
right?
Yeah,
so it's very, very.
Yeah, but so think about what you're saying, because I think a lot of our people, right? So we have this thing called the internet, YouTube, Google, Instagram, where everybody's showing these things. Look at my screen. I wholesaled and made $84,000. Well, that happens, right? But that happens to the seasoned professionals or the guys that have some good stroke of luck. You start your career, David, by simply trying to reduce your living expense, and you've paid everybody back. So now you have essentially the $30,000 of equity in your home after 12 or 18 months.
Yeah, exactly. And I did that 3 times while I was in college.
So we do this 3 times. 3 times gives you, let's just call it $90,000 of equity when you get out of college, as a moment of saying, now I can start my career or I can build off of this by now working my tail off, not by the Instagram blurb that just said, I just wholesaled and you could do the same thing and come do this. Because we try to live in reality here, right? I try to debunk a little bit of not the marketing, right? I love the marketing. I just want people to understand.
You want to look at the net number, not the gross.
It's hard, right? This isn't easy, right? I want everyone to understand you got to work hard. You're going to have to go flip burgers at Burger King. That might be part of the routine. You might have to sling some drinks over the weekend. You might have to have 2 or 3 jobs to start in real estate and be successful. Not think that you're going to wake up one day, wholesale a house, have 80 grand, and now you're off to the races, right? Because that happens to nobody.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So here's the thing. I tell this to all my students as well. I'm sure you do as well. You know, this business is incredibly simple, but it ain't easy. Those are 2 different things altogether. I don't like to ever say it's hard, but you're gonna have to work hard. But what in life comes easy that you value? I mean, why do you think coaches don't offer their coaching services for free? Because nobody would listen to them. Like nobody would value that information. I just paid a coach $25,000 recently for about 4 weeks worth of education. And he taught me one simple lesson that was worth 25 grand, right?
Well,
if I wouldn't have paid him, you know, I wouldn't have listened to anything that he said, and I wouldn't have taken away, you know, that particular lesson. So it was just a marketing lesson when it comes to, like, you know, online ads and webinars, and it's not relevant to this conversation here, but yeah, I mean, you got to value the information, right? So, you know, this business isn't hard per se. You got to work hard. It's incredibly simple, but it's not easy, you know. So as long as you know the simple steps to take in any business, being a landlord, using the BRRRR method, which is my passion, wholesaling deals, fix and flipping deals, walking into banks, asking for private or hard money. You know, a lot of this stuff is very, very simple. A lot of it just comes down to, you know, knowing what to do and what not to do, and having the confidence to do these things, and having the confidence additionally to make a mistake or 2 along the way, and know that it's not going to just end. You know, you're not going to die if you make a mistake. You're going to learn, and you have to move on. So, you know, to have success in this business is no different than having success in any business. The things that are going to give people success in this business, along with any other business, is very simple. It's being consistent, and it's being persistent. Those 2 simple things are what success is made of. Like, the success formula is being consistent and being persistent.
Yeah, we agree with the persistent. I mean, we see a lot of people that are persistent that do very well, but it takes them a little while. And that's okay, right? It's okay to have limited
that
success.
The definition of persistence is just not stopping.
It's going until you succeed. It's going until you win. You know, if you just have a thought about, you know, doing something, and then it stops right there, you weren't very consistent or persistent, right? So you got to do these things persistently, and you can't have a plan B. You know, you got to burn the boats if you want to have success in your small business.
We share that. You know, it's a lot of our borrowers, when they start to fail, which is a very small amount of them, I wonder why they're failing. And I want to pick up the phone, which I do a lot, and I say, hey, we're failing. Why are you failing? What's going on? And it's always a measure of the persistence, right? The fire's out, right? The flame is gone for whatever reason, and there's always some other distraction or someone to blame the finger to. And so I think the audience really should take away from what David just shared with us, which I think is huge, is consistent and persistent. And those 2 thoughts really need to be in your head: consistent, persistent. We want to stay relevant. We want to stay consistent. And we always want to have that fire going, because it's a marathon all day long. And we got to be in it to win it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And failure is part of the process, guys. I mean, I've done about 1,000 transactions, give or take. Of those, about 700 of those have been wholesale deals. I've done about 200 BRRRR deals. And, you know, we've done a couple owner finance and creative finance and lease option and sub 2 type deals along the way too. And I've lost money on 4 deals ever.
Yeah,
So,
and that's amazing. But that, David, that comes from, I think, your persistence of learning and slowly, methodically developing what you have today. So you mentioned the BRRRR method, and you shared with us a little bit. And David has currently about $20,000 a month of passive income. So passive income, for those that don't fully understand the definition of the passive income, is basically this is income that David, with minimal effort, is yielding to himself, right? So David could be passively at his lake house fixing his broken irrigation system, and he's still earning that $20,000 a month of passive income. And that comes traditionally from rentals. And David, you talk about the BRRRR method, and the BRRRR method, when I got started in real estate, didn't have this great acronym, and I love the acronym. I think it's brilliant. I think it's spot on. It's identifiable. But this is how we all start, right? With basically the buy and hold method. And so talk me through this. Since you were a wholesaler, right? Well, actually, let me bring you back for a minute. You started wholesaling a lot of houses. That was basically one of your big businesses, is that you were a wholesaler. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So I think a good way to kind of talk to dive into that topic, it would be to wrap up the first part here. So I did 3 house hacking, deals while I was in school, like we had mentioned, right? And then I got out of school and I got a job doing sales and marketing for various people, various companies. I started some of my own small businesses and was an entrepreneur. And for the next 7 years, I essentially, had a small business or worked for a small business. And I was lucky enough to save up enough money to buy 1 house a year. And in fact, 2 of those 7 years, I got super lucky and I bought 2 houses in a year. So basically, to sum this up, I started at the age of 20, and by the time I was 30, I had 12 houses. So that's pretty good, considering that I was borrowing the 20% down, or later after college, I was saving it. It's about 30 grand on a $150,000 property. And I was going to the bank and I was putting down the money. So I had done really well, but I look at this like it was the wrong way. And I'll tell you why in a minute, why it was the wrong way. It was the wrong way because there's a better way. But essentially, after 10 years of doing it the wrong way, which is still a good way to do it, it's a better way to do it than not doing anything at all, let's be honest. But at the end of that, 10-year period, I was like, man, I need to just get into real estate full time. So I closed down 3 or 4 of my small businesses. I stopped working for anybody at the current time that I was working for, and I dove in full time. And I started reading. I started listening to podcasts like the one that we are talking on right here, Chris. Again, thanks for having me. And I started learning from people that were doing lots of deals like me and you are today. And some of these guys had courses. I was buying courses. I was buying books. I was listening to podcasts. I was even hiring people to help coach me. I love having 2 or 3 coaches at any given time. I'm addicted to learning new things. And I stumbled across wholesaling. These coaches, these podcasts, these books, they were like, hey, you don't need to save 30 grand to go buy a property, right? In fact, you can flip a property with as little as $10. So I jumped into wholesaling. I jumped in with both feet, Scott, and I didn't look back. However, I took my mind off the goal. So there's a lesson to be learned here. I got into real estate because I wanted freedom. I wanted passive income. I wanted cash flow. Like you mentioned, my real estate portfolio brings in about 20 grand a month passively. I have other businesses that bring in an additional 20 to 30 grand on top of that. So it's really closer to about 50,000 a month passive income coming in, right? Real estate's one of the main pieces there. It's about 20 grand. Well, I took my eyes off the prize and I started looking at wholesaling. Wholesaling's great, but it's a shiny object. Let's be honest. It's not a job. It's not a career. It's a marketing venture, right? Or I should say it's not investing. It's a job. You're just stopping one job to do another job. And over the next 4 years, Scott, I did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of deals. But I would say I did that for about 4.5 years. So about 3 years ago, I wake up one day and I'm like, man, I'm just spinning my wheels. I'm making good money, but I'm not really building my portfolio. That's what I got into this at that point was 14 years earlier, and I had taken my eye off the prize. So, what we started doing about 4 years ago at scale, about 3.5 to 4 years ago at scale, was we started getting back into the buy and hold game. and we started buying properties. But this time when we were buying properties to hold, we did it the right way. So remember when I said we did it the wrong way? The wrong way is going and finding an agent, and it's going and finding a house on the market, retail, and then walking into a bank. And the order may be different for you, but this is the basic steps, right? And then you find a property on the market and have that agent contact the other agent and make it the offer for you. And then line up the financing with the bank, go get the 20% down, save it, borrow it, whatever, acquire the property, live in it, or just rent it out. That's the old way. It's the slow way. It's what I like to say, the wrong way. Guys, don't do that, right? Now what we do is we do it the right way, right? So the right way is using all of the skills that I learned and built over that 4-year stint of just being a wholesaler. I learned how to market to off-market sellers. I learned how to negotiate and run appointments and make friends and build rapport and make really, really low offers and just get comfortable and build the confidence, right? And I built a lot of skills on how to find good deals. So now what we do is we use those skills to find these deals, but we cherry pick those deals. And we're typically buying these deals at 20, 30, 40% discounts. And then we fix these properties up, we get them rented. And here's the thing. Now we go to the bank after we've already borrowed from a private or hard money lender at a discount, bought it at a discount, fixed that property up, get it rented, and then we go to the bank. So here's the big difference. In the beginning, I was using the banks to help me buy, Scott.
Yep.
Now I'm buying with private money, hard money. I'm fixing them up. I'm getting them rented. And then I'm going into the bank and saying, hey, I don't need you to help me buy. I'm not a rookie. Instead, I already own this property and I want to refinance it. I owe somebody else. And guess what, Scott? Guess what? They don't care about the purchase price anymore. What they care about is that the money that they're going to be paying the other lender is equal to or less than 80%, assuming they're going to lend 80% of what it appraises for. So the big difference before is I was buying properties what they appraise for. There was really very, very little margin there. If I bought a property for 165 and it appraised for, 170, then cool, the bank does the loan. If it appraised for 160, then I'm responsible for that other $5,000. Basically, it's the same number. Well, now I'm buying $150,000 properties for $60,000. I'm putting 30 or 40,000 in them, and I'm going to the bank and I'm refinancing, paying back my purchase, my rehab, and all the interest. And I'm not having to have any of my own money in the property. So that's the new way. That's the better way. It's called the BRRRR Method. And it is a strategy, Scott, that will help a lot of people create a ton of wealth. In fact, it's made me millions and millions of dollars using very little of my own money to get into these deals.
So David, let's break this down for because people. I understand exactly what you're saying. I've been doing the BRRRR Method in a different ideology on multifamily and industrial assets and single family homes forever. But I want to break this down because you touch on the most important aha moment that people really have to understand. When you use OPM, whatever OPM means to you, which is other people's money, whether that's private money, hard money, grandma's money, sister's money, whoever's money, other people's money, to do your acquisition and your stabilization, the end lender, right, views you as a party that already owns real estate and is sophisticated. The second part of it is that they also now, most importantly, are looking at what does the property appraise for versus what you paid for it. Loan to cost versus loan to value. And those two things, LTC, loan to cost, is what they look at from when you're doing an acquisition. What are you paying for the property? And we're going to assess an 80% loan to that number. Loan
Let
to
me break
value,
it down even simpler for all the listeners.
Even simpler, okay? If you want to be better at anything in life, you can do so very simply by just trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes. And this applies to sellers, this applies to lenders, this applies to bankers. It applies for general contractors. It applies to everybody. So let's do it a quick little exercise. And let's put ourselves in the shoes of a banker. So David walks into the bank and says, I've never bought a house before. Maybe I've even bought a couple, but I want to buy another one. Well, that bank says, all right, can you You pay the bill. Are you going to be able to pay us? Have you proven this already? Have you rented properties? Do you know anything about property management, right? They're going to look at that as a risky loan. Therefore, the due diligence on you and the property is going to be extensive. And hopefully you qualify. Hopefully you have enough debt to income, or you have enough income, or you have enough experience where they say, hey, we're going to do this loan. Again, we're putting ourselves in the shoes of the banker. It's high risk offering a new product. Essentially, what we're asking the bank to do is to create risk. Now, the other example is we're going to put ourselves in the banker's shoes again. And now David's going to walk in, and David's going to walk in with Scott. And David and Scott are pros. We've been doing this for a minute, right? That's actually not as important as the next thing I'm going to say. David and Scott asked the banker if the banker has interest in refinancing one of our existing loans. So again, we're putting ourselves in the shoes of the banker. Well, the banker is now going to be thinking, okay, so you guys aren't asking me to create new risk. You already own the home. Oh, and by the way, David and Scott are going to say, oh, and by the way, we just put a new roof on this house and a new kitchen, and we fixed the plumbing stack, and there was a water issue. We got that all fixed and remediated, right? So the bank's going to say,
and re-tenanted it. So
and
now
that's the next part. That's the next part. So not only is the risk lower because we're not creating new risk, we're asking them to transfer risk, but we've also mitigated their risk quite a bit, because if we stop paying them and they have to take the property back, the property's got a new roof and a new kitchen. And then Scott had a good point. We've also turned this property from a liability into an asset by putting a tenant in there. So when we're going in and we're asking the bank to help us out and refinance, we are also highlighting that we're not looking for a new loan. We already have a loan. So they're going to piggyback off of the initial lender's due diligence. They're going to love the fact that we've removed and mitigated a ton of their risk by rehabbing the property. Oh, and by the way, it's rented already. So it's not like we're asking you to help us finance a vacant liability. It's an asset. So when you do it this way and you approach the business, this direction versus go to the bank first, it's going to be much, much, much easier to get the loan. It's going to be faster. They're not going to be looking at you so much. They're going to be looking more at the property. I mean, we're refinancing 5, 10, 15 houses in a month sometimes. And the banks love the fact that they're not creating new risk.
So
right?
David,
They're transferring risk.
Right. So just to help people understand that, just on a very microcosm basis, what David's talking about creating new risk is that when the risk from the OPM is issued, when the original acquisition capital is placed on the property, the risk is created, is what David is saying.
That's the highest risk, and there's also
Correct.
a higher rate to compensate
that lender for higher risk. Well, once that loan has been done and you've used the money properly and you didn't squander it and you put the rest of the rehab money into rehabbing the property, now the risk has been mitigated. It's a lot less. So the bank's willing to come in and say, Scott, what do you charge? 12, 14%, give or take, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
The bank's going to come in and say, hey, we'll do it for 4.75. It's a whole hell of a lot less than 14, but you've also come in with a whole lot less risk.
Yeah, and so what I'm trying to help the listeners understand, David, because I think your point to the sophisticated or those that have done this before is resonating, right? What I'm trying to help them understand is that from a risk standpoint, the issuance of the primary mortgage at acquisition is when the risk is issued and at the highest. When
in the beginning, it's at the highest, correct.
And when the property has been rehabbed,
when the property needs 30, 40 grand worth of work.
Exactly.
That's
and when
obvious.
When the property then has a tenant in it, a new roof, a new kitchen, it's stable.
The work's been done and it's rented, the risk has been lowered.
Correct. And then you can get into a 5, 7, 10, 30-year product, DSCR product.
At 4 or 5% or less in some cases.
Well,
correct.
In today's market, who knows? But
currently, maybe not tomorrow, guys.
Yeah, today's June 14, 2022. We'll remember this podcast at some point. So that's great. So you've done the BRRRR strategy. You said you sometimes are refinancing 10, 15 houses at a time. So walk us through. You start as a wholesaler, right? So when you wholesale and you identify one that fits the BRRRR strategy, you're keeping that one, right? You're saying this one is an easy.
Yeah. So we have
a very simple motto at our office, and it goes like this: keep the best, wholesale the rest. It's very, very, very simple, guys. Keep the best, wholesale the rest. That's the whole thing, right? We don't like to buy properties on the market. We like to buy them off the market for so many reasons. In fact, my business averages about 100 purchases a year. And on average, we maybe get 3 or 4, or if we're lucky, 5 of 100 on the market, on the MLS. The other 95 to 98, 99% of the deals that we're buying are off the market. They're direct to the seller, guys. So every dollar that I spend on my marketing, and it's reasonable. To some, it may sound crazy, but to some, it might be like I spend that in a day, right? It's about 6 or 7 grand a month on my marketing. It's not crazy, but it's a good amount. But all of that marketing goes into me finding my next rental or my next fix and flip. But as we get good deals, they may be too far away. They may need too much work. They may be too small, may not be the best neighborhood, but we still can get the good deal. We wholesale them. So the wholesaling business is really just a means to an end to fund the marketing, to find the next fix and flipper, find the next rental BRRRR method. So, we did wholesaling as a primary method for about 4 years consistently. And I woke up one day and said, holy cow, I am on a transaction treadmill running at 70 miles an hour. This is no fun. I'm not getting anywhere. I'm just running in place. So I decided, hey, wholesaling is it's a great set of skills to own and to have, but you're better off using those skills to find deals that you can buy and hold. And this is just my opinion. Some people may disagree, that you can buy and hold, because when you buy and hold, you create wealth. You get to use the IRS tax code to defer and remove your taxes, and the amount of tax that you pay on your income from your buy and hold is much less than the time that you trade for your income. Much less.
Yeah, but
so the advantages are tenfold.
But let me jump into something that you said. You said that you were on a transaction treadmill going 70 miles an hour. What? So for someone,
I was standing still. I was running at that speed.
For people to understand what that means,
I can't run that fast.
But think about it from a standpoint of what that means, right? So David was doing a lot of transactions, but very, very poorly creating passive income, very, very poorly creating wealth, very, very poorly creating cash flow, very, very poorly creating sustainability.
I was trading income.
Income's easy, right? Income is income.
That's easy, right? And as I was going from 1 deal a month to 3 deals a month to 8 deals a month to, I think at our peak, we were doing 18 to 20 deals a month. My marketing budget went from 6 or 8 grand up to about 30,000. And then if you have a bad month, you have to spend $30,000 on marketing. Well, if you don't make 30,000 that month, you get yourself into a pinch. So you essentially can be running full speed doing 15 deals and not necessarily making a profit, right? So I realized that. And some months we would make 100,000 or 150,000, right? So, some months are great, some months are bad. But I realized that this isn't something that I wanted to continue to do, because essentially I had left my businesses, right? I had left my jobs, and I just created a new job for myself. I was the boss of my new job, but if I stopped working and the deal flow stopped coming in and I stopped running appointments and making offers, I would stop getting paid. Well, with rental properties, you can buy a deal and use the BRRRR method if you like. I suggest you try it and do it, because it's way better than the old method, right? But you get paid every month as that property is rented, as long as you're maintaining that property. So, I basically got off of the transaction treadmill by starting to shift the mindset of, hey, let's quit trying to make a quick 5 or 10 grand on a wholesale deal. Let's try to go get 20, 30, 40 grand worth of equity in a BRRRR deal, a buy and hold, a long-term asset that's also going to help me reduce my taxable costs with my income down to almost zero. Almost zero. It's unbelievable. And here's the cool part, guys. It's legal. Yeah. So I don't know about you, but one of my main motivating factors at this point, I'm already financially free. That was the goal, the first goal. My second goal, my main one now, is how can I legally pay the least amount of taxes that I possibly can? And it's crazy, because somebody that works at McDonald's is going to probably pay somewhere in the range of about 36% in tax, give or take, on their income. There's additional taxes, folks. You got sales tax, you got personal property tax, you got real estate tax, you got death tax. The real tax rate's about 60%, like it or not. All right. But the average person's income is maybe about 35, 36%. Most real estate investors that I know are paying less than 15%. In fact, I pay 12% on my income. How is that fair? Guys, it's not, but it's the law. It's legal. It's the law. You want to know how and why it's the law? I'll tell you. Because you never see somebody going from McDonald's or Jack in the Box or Taco Bell to the United States Senate.
Right.
Laws are written by wealthy people to protect wealthy people. And the cool part is every one of the listeners right here, Scott, can take advantage of the laws that protect wealthy people. You don't have to be wealthy to take advantage of these laws, but you got to understand them. And that's why real estate is literally the best vehicle on planet Earth to create wealth, because it is coded into the IRS tax code, the law on how to pay less taxes. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're off the transactional treadmill. We start BRRRRing houses, or we start trying to create this passive income, David. Which for the record, I was always in that position where I always wanted to create rental income, manage the depreciation, and at some of the bigger projects that we do, there's a extrapolated version of the tax code called cost segregation studies that allows you to forward depreciate a lot of what you're doing, and we'll talk more about that on a different podcast. But since we've got David here talking about a very important piece of this, you say something that resonates really well. So, everybody's on Instagram. Everybody's watching all of the wholesaling opportunities that are out there. And as you said, wholesaling is basically a job replacement. It's a marketing engine that requires...
Yeah, wholesaling is not investing. It's marketing.
There's no question. But you say this, right? You say keep the best and wholesale the rest. And, historically, we've had Jerry Norton on the podcast who talks a little bit about a wholesaler. He's a wholesaler, but he says if you want to make $1 million a year, you gotta hold, you gotta fix and flip, because otherwise it's not going to happen, right? And so, David, I want to talk about your favorite saying, which is keep the best and wholesale the rest, because it means a lot to me, because I see a lot of our borrowers buying from wholesalers, and they're keeping the best. They're paying a small transactional fee to a wholesaler, and then they get the best. And the wholesaler gets some money that he spent on marketing, or the next week he spends on marketing.
Here's the thing. I don't disagree, Scott. And you are absolutely 100% correct. But as wholesalers mature in their own businesses, they start keeping the best and wholesaling the rest.
They all do. I agree with you. Listen.
You probably do.
For sure.
Beginning, you don't have the means to fix and flip. You don't have the means unless you're good at using OPM. 100%.
Right. And so OPM's an important factor. Absolutely. But I just want you, what I'm trying to help the listeners understand is really that maturation process from wholesaling, right? Wholesaling starts out of the survival, right? You survival because you need to make money. You need to make income. You want to be in real estate. And
it's also doubles as learning some amazing skill sets of negotiating and running appointments and sending offers and building confidence. And one of the things that I think my students struggle with the most is they're embarrassed to make a low offer, guys. But what happens when you make a low offer, one that you would never in your wildest dreams would think get accepted? And they say, yeah, that sounds good. When can we close? And you're like, wait, what?
I remember when that happened to me the first time. I actually remember it. I said, you just said yes,
these skills from and I didn't mean to cut you off, Scott. I apologize.
No,
but these skills from these activities, right? From these energies that you're putting out, these skills are going to make you a better investor. So, people ask me all the time, where do you start, Dave? Where do you start? Do I start with wholesaling? Do I start with rentals? And really the answer to that question is, well, what's your goal? Is your goal to be a full-time investor and get really good at it and do all the things like I do? Or is your goal to just simply buy 1 or 2 houses a year and create passive income? Then we can simply answer that question for you, right? You don't need to just go create this marketing business and go run hundreds and hundreds of appointments if you're just trying to buy 1 or 2 houses a year, right? So it really is going to depend on you and your goals.
For sure. But I think everybody's common goal, right? I think regardless of who you speak to, whether you have a really nice job, whether you are just starting a family, whether you're happy where you are, is everybody wants to be better, right? I mean, I believe that the human being always wants to self-improve. The human being wants to always be.
I think we are always seeking efficiency. How can I work less and make more?
That's fair. I think, I think a lot of people don't get to that point. I think that's a challenge for a lot of people, right? How can I be more efficient with my time, make more money, and do it in less amount of hours or less amount of energy? I don't think there's a lot of people that connects to on the entry point from where I just want to be a real estate investor. I think that fits in the top 10, right? I think there's a lot of people that get efficient and effective that are very good at that. I like to talk to the masses, right? Because I get calls every day, David. I want to be like David George in 2005 who buys my first house hack. Or I want to be a fix and flipper like you first fix and flipped a house in 2003. Or I want to own a rental property. Or how do I get started, right? And so I always want people to understand that hope is there, right? Opportunity is there in real estate. The entry point is at a 0. Now we go past that and we look at what David is saying, which is, I think the favorite takeaway for me is keep the best and wholesale the rest. Really means that David has a wholesale engine, which is a marketing vehicle where he can go and get leads, and he keeps the good ones, which basically allows him to maximize and optimize his equity and his amount of cash that he might or might not have to put into a transaction. And the other ones, the rest, he's wholesaling to earn the fee to cover the marketing expenses to go keep the best. And so if you think about how he does this in perpetuity to what goes on, David can continue to wholesale 1, 3, 5, 10 houses a month to be able to continue to build his portfolio. You currently sit with about 90 rentals today. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, we got about 92, 93 units. We're looking at buying, another 100 or 200 units over the next couple of years.
So
we've
talk about that though, David. So you have a goal, right? You've set up a goal. You've got an idea, right? You got 90.
Yeah, my goal is very simple. I want 100,000 passive income a month.
So David wants, and David, when you say passive income, can you clarify for a lot of the listeners? That's $100,000
income that I can make and
earn while I am out at my lake house chilling, taking shots of Jägermeister while there's a cleaning lady cleaning, a guy doing the yard, and all these beautiful things. Maybe even get the groceries delivered. But all these things, right, that I'm doing, enjoying with my friends and my family, and 100,000 hits the account on the first of the month. That's passive income. That's
passive income to David, right? And so David is thinking about the future. He's at 20. He has a clear path right now to 100, a very clear path. And so I look at it and I say, David, that's amazing, right? I want to wrap up here in the next couple of minutes, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
But I want to throw out some takeaways for a couple of our folks. So David, who's a real estate investor and also a coach, is available at various different online platforms at David Allen Dodge on Instagram. And he also has a website, davidallendodge.com. So feel free to check out his content there. David is a very aggressive and a guy started in 2005 with not a single piece of real estate, house hacked his first house, and he's now moving along. And so, David, before I let you go, I want to thank you for your time and do a quick recap, if that's all right. So, let's go through. Let's just kind of from the top line level down. Talk a little bit about the BRRRR method, right? So the BRRRR method, for those people that don't know what it is, by the way, the BRRRR method, which is David's favorite method and his favorite idea of real estate, is to buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. And there's tons of stuff all over there. David has written a book. Is it a book, David? The BRRRR method?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so David has a book on Amazon and audible.com that you should check out. But the idea behind the BRRRR method really allows David, which was at the time when he was acquiring or house hacking, was costing him $30,000. Now the BRRRR method is giving you, what's your average equity or cash out on a BRRRR strategy today?
Yeah, so the average when I first started was 30 grand. That's what we talked about, right? Did that 12 times in the first 10 years. And then we started learning about the BRRRR method, and we went, we started averaging like 15, 20, and then we got better at it and started averaging like 10. And now we're averaging about $1,200 out of pocket to acquire an asset, which means
that
after it cash flows,
$1,200. 1 month of rent is covering David's
the
cost.
cash flow on,
on a single family is closer to 400, 500. So yeah, two, 3, 4 months worth of rent, whatever. And then we have an infinite return at that point because we have no money invested into the deal. We just did one on Monday of this week where we had to bring $7,000 to the table. We did one this morning where we got paid $22,000.
So it's just kind of buried. You got paid.
Paid.
And that's the cool thing is like, once I have a program called BRRRR Method Mastery, and that's really the goal is to help my students master the BRRRR method. So they're not leaving in 30 grand. They're not leaving in 10. They're not leaving in even 1,200. If you master the BRRRR method and you do it the right way, you can actually get paid to buy assets. I've done a couple of them at this point where we've made $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 at closing to acquire the asset. The lender gets paid back. We get the asset. It's rehabbed. It's rented. And we have long-term financing on it with a really, really good cash flow of, $500, $600, $700 a month.
Yeah, and just to be clear, so just for the real estate investors listening, the BRRRR method works on not only single family assets, but it works on
we do it with
multifamily,
multifamily, we do it with
commercial properties. Exactly.
Yeah, I've done it with mobile home parks. I've done it with commercial buildings. I'm wrapping up a 24-unit apartment building right now that we're doing it on. I mean, you can do it on anything.
Yeah, people get a little bit lost is that it has to be on a single family home, and that's not true.
Single family homes are going to be your easiest because there's so many of them. There's so many of them, and you got to get a good deal in order to master the BRRRR method, right? If you want to do this with, here's the thing. You guys have all heard, and Scott, you've mentioned this before. People they're listening to YouTube and to Instagram and all these things, and you're hearing people. You might even see me say sometimes, "Hey guys, you can do this with little to no money." And here's the thing. We're not lying. This is the truth. These are facts. But what a lot of people are leaving out is in order to do that, you got to get really, really good deals. And you also got to be really, really good at managing the budget and managing the project. And if you get a really, really good deal and you fix that deal up and you force the appreciation with the rehab, you can be all into these deals at 70 or 80% of what they appraise for. And if you're in that for those numbers or less even, and the bank's going to lend you 70 to 80% of what it appraises for, you can get into these deals with little to no money. And in some cases, you can even get paid to do these deals.
Yeah, but expectations should be you're going to have to come to the table with money. You're going to need cash to get started. But when you get good, when you figure out how to buy deep enough, when you figure out how to negotiate
I got students that are doing their first deals with no money out of pocket. So the expectations, and Scott, I love it. I'm very transparent, just like you. I don't try to sell people on the fact that everybody's going to do this every time. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen, right? But can you do your first deal with little to no money? Absolutely. Sure. Is it likely? If you don't have a coach, probably not. If you have a coach and a mentor like Scott or myself that can guide you through it, we're going to, at very least, cut the amount of money you're going to have in that deal in half. And hopefully down by 80 or 90%.
For sure. Yeah. And I think you have to be ready to learn, listen, and pay a lot of attention to details.
And hustle, man.
And hustle. We talk about hustle in every one of our podcasts, and it's just something that I can't stop saying, because if you don't have hustle, I can't teach you to hustle. I can only help you.
Well, we checked the box on this one.
Yep,
let's hustle,
right.
baby.
I love it. So, David, we're going to wrap up here. I just want to give you 1 second to say anything to our audience before you close, and then I'll wrap us out of here. But I really want to say thank you to you, David. David Dodge is a great real estate investor and a coach out of the St. Louis market. Please look him up. I promise you won't be wasting your time. Read one of his BRRRR Method books on Amazon and Audible. And Dave, let's hear your closing remarks.
Yeah, guys, I mean, here's the deal. Scott and I said this a couple times at this point, but this business is incredibly simple. The more you do it, the simpler it gets. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to work really, really hard, but you're probably working really, really hard at that 40-hour-a-week job you got already, right? And some people have 2 or 3 jobs. They're working really hard too. Anything in life that's going to be worth anything is going to require a lot of work. But the more you do of it, the easier it's going to become. So with that being said, I'm super, super happy to have this opportunity to come provide some value to the audience. Hopefully everybody learned a thing or two about the BRRRR method, how to do it the right way, and how to do this with little to no money, and how it is very, very possible. And, by having a coach or a mentor, it's going to not only make it easier for you, but it's going to speed things up, and it's going to save you a lot of money. So if you guys want to learn more about the BRRRR method, learn more about me, head on over to David Allen Dodge, like you had mentioned, Scott. That's my full name, DavidAllandodge.com. And I look forward to working with you guys personally.
David, thank you so much. And my name is Scott Lurie. This is the Hard Truth Podcast. Hope you guys learned a lot out of it, and I hope everybody has a great, happy investing. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.